BGP-LS itself is really interesting to me. I think this was a bad decision we made as an industry. And I had a number of discussions with Hannah Skredler, who was at Juniper at the time, about how, why BGP-LS. The problem for me about BGP-LS is that we really looked at BGP and we said, okay, now we have this thing, we have this toolkit, and we're using it for route distribution through the network. And yeah, we keep on adding address families, but we generally were adding address families that something to do with route distribution, right? They were IPv4, IPv6, VPN-v4, VPv6, BGP-LU. Even route target constraint, for example, that was added is still it's essentially a pruning of the what should be flooded through the network in a more efficient way. But then we started to say, okay, let's put data that's not actually to do with route flooding into BGP or route distribution into BGP. And so that then makes the failure mode of it. There's all this data that might be not related to route distribution. And then there's route distribution information. And what happens if this thing breaks? Now it breaks something that was a critical feature of our network versus one that wasn't a critical thing. Like we had a fallback from TE to just IGP paths, for example. Then if your IGP paths happen to be established over BGP and these things share fate, then they're not actually disjoint to each other anymore. So I was very much concerned with the way that we were saying now, like especially with BGP-LS, you're coupling IGP chattiness and flooding frequency into BGP update rate in a way that seemed to couple things in an odd manner to me, in a way that was risky. And there were all kinds of debates. Robert Razuk was proposing TI, transport instance BGP, which was like, hey, let's define that there must be another BGP instance for this to be able to do this sort of non-critical information. There was multi-session, but multi-session only might couple it still to the same daemon on the device.
Yep.
But I think that this was a case where we didn't really get the division right, and it adds to the complexity of the BGP daemon itself in terms of how are we prioritizing what information should be sent before other information. That might mean like per address family scheduling. We already have like inside address family scheduling. Seems kind of problematic or challenging to couple all these things into one, which naturally, it's a bit of a big hammer, but defining some new protocol or defining a new thing that has its shared fate kind of gets rid of that problem for you, right? Like we've never tried to put SNMP into BGP. So like saying that this is really about monitoring station to device communication, not device to device route propagation or at that layer, sort of made sense to me to put into a different failure domain on the device and different implementation design place. It's not to say there couldn't be coupling between them in some internal implementation, but it reduces the likelihood that there is.
Thanks for listening. And as always, you can find the full episode at ntwr.kn and in the description below.